Right, so hello, welcome back to the channel, and we need to talk about Declan Rice's transfer. I mean, the guy is about to become the second most expensive Premier League transfer of all time. And with a year left on his contract and the calibre of player that he is he really worth that? And because that's just been playing on my mind over the past week or so, or whenever it has been announced, I'm going to be looking back at the 10 most expensive Premier League transfers and just let you know if it was a flop or if they were a success. 10th place, 72 million, Nikola Pepe. He was brought over in 2019 from Lille to Arsenal, and in the first season, you never know with anyone's first season, but he did show a bit of promise. But for a record signing, 5 goals, 5 assists, it wasn't really a brilliant debut campaign. His second season, it was a better output of goals. He got 10 goals, but they came at an expense because they only got the 1 single assist. And overall, for a record signing that it's going to be shattered by Declan Rice arriving, but you just expect more. And then he loses his place to Saka. Martinelli, he gets loaned out, and he's basically been frozen out of the squad. So, was he worth it? Massive flop in my opinion. 10th place, 72 million, Kepa Arrizabalaga. So there's actually a 3-way tie for 10th place. And then next up is Kepa, and his tenure has been very up and down at Chelsea. Kepa was always going to be expensive. I mean, he was a panic buy at the end of the day. Chelsea had just sold Thibaut Courtois. I mean, it wasn't like it was their fault. Courtois was just threatening to leave, basically, and he was not going to play. And so they had to sell him, and they sold him to Real Madrid, but they did it so late on in the window that they didn't really have any options, so they went for Kepa. And Athletic Bilbao, they took the mick with the price. Even to this day, he's still the most expensive goalkeeper of all time. Do you know how mental that is? Kepa is the most expensive goalkeeper of all time. Unbelievable. For Kepa's Chelsea career, well, he refuses to come off in a cup final against Man City for a penalty shootout when they have a specialist penalty saver in Willy Caballero, who Sarri's trying to get onto the pitch, and he refused, and they subsequently lost the game. He then gets dropped for Edouard Mendy. They win the Champions League final. It looks like Chelsea are getting back to where they have been over the past decade or so. Then Edouard Mendy, he gets injured, loses his place. Kepa comes back into the team, and he's just been so shaky. And for the most expensive goalkeeper of all time, you've got to say he wasn't worth it at all in the slightest. 10th place, 72 million, Kai Havertz. Now, Havertz arrived from Leverkusen in the summer of 2020, and he's made the biggest impact so far because he's scored the winner in the Champions League final a year later against Manchester City, so fair play to him. And for as big a moment as that was, and it is a massive moment, what else has he actually done? I mean, I don't think that Chelsea have actually used him in his correct position in the sort of number 10 role, because they've needed that striker, they've needed the source of goals, and as someone who's 6'3", 6'4", he's massive, he's quick, he's skillful, he's good at heading, he's got every quality that a striker would want. Chelsea have put him up there, but he's just not got the goal rate. And obviously their poor form last season led to a massive dip in form, a loss in confidence, and he's subsequently just been sold to Arsenal for 65 million. I'm going to say that he's not been worth it at all, even though he has delivered Chelsea the Champions League. I wouldn't say he's worth it, would you? 9th place, Jadon Sancho, 73 million. Jadon Sancho arrived from Borussia Dortmund to Man United in the summer of 2021, probably to the highest expectation than anyone in this list. I mean, at Borussia Dortmund, he would take defenders on, he was so silky, he was so smooth, he would get past all the defenders in the Bundesliga, and he would make everything look so easy that the real debate was, who's better between Phil Foden and Jadon Sancho? But those debates are no more. But I mean, injuries, loss of confidence, loss of form, He's put on a little bit of timber as well. He's lost his place in the side to the likes of Garnacho. Antony's been brought in, and Ten Hag doesn't seem to really want him. So, with all that being said, he has not been worth it one bit, but he has got a massive season ahead of him. 8th place, Virgil van Dijk, 75 million. No brainer here. Best player in the list by a country mile. Premier League winner, Champions League winner, FA Cup winner, League Cup winner, World winner. Best player in the list. Worth it by a country mile. Nothing more needs to be said. 7th place, Romelu Lukaku, 75 million. Now, in 2017, Man United thought that they found their long-term successor to Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Wayne Rooney in the form of Romelu Lukaku, the goal-scoring machine at both West Brom and Everton. Seemed like a no-brainer, right? Now, I think that Lukaku, throughout his entire career, in all honesty, has had a bit of a bad rep. I mean, he's Belgium's all-time leading goal scorer. And for Man United, in the 2 seasons he was there, he got 16 goals and 12 goals in the Premier League, and it's not awful. Now, yes, the second season there was a bit of a drop-off. First season, that's a pretty good season overall. And for the money spent for him, for the return, and the fact that they got a load of money back for him as well, just a slight loss, I'm going to say he was worth it. Number 6, 80 million, Harry Maguire. This is what happens when you overhype mid-table English talent who are in good form. Leicester absolutely shafted Man United here in the deal. This is the biggest waste of money, perhaps, of all time. Not worth it in the slightest. Made captain for some reason. Just, no, not worth it at all. Biggest waste of money ever. Number 5, Antony, 82.2 million. Signed last summer from Ajax. This is the first player I'm actually unsure on. I mean, he's only had 1 season in the league, and you look at the like of young Cristiano Ronaldo, even Mo Salah at Chelsea, it took them a little bit of time to adjust, and look what they went on to achieve. And I'm not saying he can get to those levels, but for 82.2 million, you are expecting him to get near enough those levels, and not goals, assists, but a direct impact on the game. Now, this is the first one. I'm not actually going to grade it. I'm going to say unsure. 1 more season. If it was anything like his last, not worth it. But if he improves, maybe. Number 4, Paul Pogba, £89 million. But Pogba, no one splits the audience like this guy. Let's not beat around the bush. This was the most expensive transfer in the entire world. It was Man United bringing back the superstar from Juventus that they let go for nothing for an astronomical fee. The plan was then simple. Have him come back, restore Man United's glory days after 3-4 years of failure, and win them a title, get them maybe a Champions League, be a general in the midfield, and become a captain and a future legend. That didn't really happen now, did it? No one's questioning his technical ability. It's one of the best in the world. I mean, he is a top 10 player in the world when he's on it. But the problem is, he's never on it. He's constantly injured. He has some discipline problems. And it just wasn't worth it, realistically. After that, he left them for free again. So, not worth it in the slightest. Number 3, Romelu Lukaku, 96 million. Again! I know in the last entry of Lukaku at Man United, I defended him and I defended his career overall, but there's just no defending this one now, is there? He had a phenomenal season back in Italy at Inter Milan. He won the Scudetto, and Chelsea's striker problems that I mentioned with Kai Havertz earlier, he looked like the guy to save them. He's built in the same mould as a Didier Drogba, a Diego Costa, the Chelsea great strikers. And he was just useless when he came back. He really was. He was so useless that they've loaned him out to Inter Milan, where he's had a poor season there overall, and he looks to be on his way out. again. So if it wasn't made clear enough already, not worth it in the slightest. Number 2, Jack Grealish, 100 million. Loads of people, when Jack Grealish got bought for 100 million from Aston Villa, were scratching their heads going, what? The calibre of superstar, he just wasn't quite there. He was a phenomenal player at Aston Villa, but realistically, if it wasn't for the English tax on him, he'd be about £60 million. I make no mistake about it, his first season was shaky. He was struggling with City's high intensity, the quick play, he was dribbling, holding on to the ball too much. It was a horrible first season, and if I made this video a year ago, not a chance would I say he's worth it. But this season, he was a key piece in the treble winning side. He started to listen to Pep Guardiola more, and that's why he got better. He was releasing the ball more. Obviously, Haaland coming in as the big marquee signing last summer, it takes a lot of the pressure off Grealish, and I think he was struggling with that pressure. But with having Haaland come in, I'd say it was a perfect fit for him. He's even dislodged Phil Foden from the side. And before people bring up, oh well, he's only got like 6 goals and 5 assists all year, blah blah blah. If you just pay attention to goals and assists, you do not know football. The way he has had an influence on the team, driving them up, having 2 players have to mark him at once so he can then pass it to De Bruyne and Gundogan, who can create the chances for Haaland, give it to Foden when he comes in the number 10 position. He's been brilliant this year, and I'm going to say he's been worth the 100 million. No doubt about it in my mind. Number 1, Enzo Fernandez, 106.8 million. So the most expensive Premier League transfer of all time happened in the January transfer window when Chelsea signed World Cup winning phenom Enzo Fernandez from Benfica for 106.8 million. And look, if I can't grade Antony, I certainly can't grade him. He's been in a Chelsea side that has been an utter mess this season. I mean, they've gone through about 3 managers now, and he was part of at least 2 of them. Then on top of that, you have all the changes that are constantly getting made to the team. He hasn't settled because he's not had a midfield partner that he's settled with, a defence that he's settled with, an attack. It's been a mess, and I think he will be worth it, but currently it's too early to tell in his time there. Now, let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Did I get them all right? Do you think some were worth it, some weren't, that I said? And do you think Declan Rice is worth 105 million? Not a chance with a year left on his deal. If you could also give a like, a share, a subscribe, that would be appreciated as well. Cheers.